Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Defense Saturdays. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Chris.
Chris is going to lay some heat on us coming out of Texas today. What you got?
Yeah, we've got a pretty interesting one here. We've got a intruder who was posing as a healthcare worker who tried to break in on an elderly woman. So I'm just going to go ahead like I always do and just read the story in its full. A Texas man fatally shot a home intruder who posed as a healthcare worker in an attempt to break into the man's mother's home in Houston. Police have not named any of the individuals involved in the incident, but the reports say that the mother heard knocks at the front door of her house. She approached the front door and a man wearing scrubs claiming to be a healthcare worker was at the door. The woman repeatedly refused to let the man inside and ultimately called her son a few blocks away for help. The son reportedly told police he arrived to the mother's house to find the man that had broken the door and shot the man as he was attempting to enter the home. Short and quick, but it's heavy.
The elderly being, being in a position not being able to defend yourself is physically is I can only imagine what that must feel like. We talk about it all the time, how ladies should carry smaller stature men, anybody with a physical disability. Not that being old is a disability or a handicap in any way, but you might not be able to throw that left hook the same way you did when you were 18. That makes me sick. Trying to, somebody, especially a kid, somebody who can't defend themselves, an elderly person, that makes me cringe a little bit.
Yeah, and actually, in our last one, we talked about a 74-year-old man who had to defend himself, and not only being in the elderly position, but also being the man who had to come rescue his mother.
Yeah, props to that guy for sure. When mama calls, you better show your ass up.
Yeah, honestly, being in that kind of situation, if he was calm and cool and could handle the situation, props to him, because if I got a call from my mom saying there's somebody trying to break into my home, I'm coming in red hot. That you don't mess with mama. So that was mistake numero uno on this guy's part. He tried to break into some elderly woman's home who's got a son. Obviously, you're not going to know that, but shouldn't be doing it anyways.
Yeah. Obviously, it doesn't matter if it's the mom or the dad or an elderly aunt or anybody. The fact of the matter is, it was somebody more physically capable trying to take advantage of somebody who wasn't.
Yeah, and something that I want to point out on this about the whole posing as a healthcare worker. You hear stories like this where people do this. They pose as important people that you would kind of not even think that, oh, this could possibly be a threat, like a healthcare worker. But even like when here in Florida we have hurricanes and you'll have power outages for days at times. When there was the most recent kind of more heavy hurricane in our area, we were hearing stories about the local electric company. There were guys that were dressing up like them and driving around in trucks that they made stickers for, trying to look super official, but they were breaking into people's homes, they were hurting people, so you had to be on high alert. And typically people like that, they won't come to your house without any kind of a notice ahead of time. You'll know when they're supposed to be at that house. They'll call you, or you're calling them. Especially medical workers, they don't just show up to your house unwarranted.
Yes, because people get shot that do that, so they do their due diligence to keep that from happening and keeping everybody safe. Definitely.
But yeah, and obviously she understood. I'm not supposed to have anybody coming by. I don't know you. Don't come into my house, which is a very good way to look at things. Even with people who are as simple as door-to-door salesmen, you got to have your guard up, because especially I want to say door-to-door salesmen are probably a little bit more on the dangerous side of it, because they're just a door-to-door salesman. They're expected to be unexpected, but it's so much easier for people to pose as stuff like that. So when you have unexpected guests at your door, probably try to give yourself a little bit of defensive capability when you go to answer a door, when it's somebody that you don't know, because that person very well could be just an innocent, door-to-door salesman, somebody who was concerned because somebody else couldn't get a hold of you, something along those lines. But it could be exactly what this story is, somebody who's trying to do harm to you.
Very interesting. It's kind of scary. Luckily, fortunately for the situation, the woman's son was pretty close by. He could respond pretty quickly. But at the same time, too, it does say he responded as he was breaking into the door, or the door had been broken. So this was, if he was 20 minutes down the road, it could have been a different story. It was that close type of thing. And So it seemed like the lady had her wits about her still. She was still, coherent enough to not let this person in. Hey, this isn't right. She kind of thought that something was wrong. People who have, and for those of you watching who have elderly parents, it's not a bad idea to start talking about them for scams and stuff like that. Especially in today's world, they come from a different generation, a different time period. Things were different 30 years ago. They could probably trust people a little bit more differently, and just kind of have that talk with them, like especially a healthcare worker or something like that. If you're involved with your family and their well-being and taking care of their healthcare side of things, try to talk to them and let them know, hey, nobody should be calling you, nobody should be showing up. Everything that's, as far as that goes, have your hand in it at least a little bit, so that nothing like this should be happening, and you can relay that to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes down to what did this man do right or wrong, I can't, and I don't know if you know specifically what the laws are behind when it comes to coming to the rescue of another person. Now, I imagine that he did everything within the law. So I don't see anything actually happening to this man. I mean, if anybody has a heart and understands that a man was trying to break into his mother's house and they have a mother that they care for, they will understand that, but I understand that's not how the justice system works. So I can't fully form an opinion on what he did right or wrong. Morally, he did everything right, and he did exactly what I would have done, probably a little bit more calmer than I would have done, to be honest with you. So I still believe that he used his right to self-defense and to defend his loved ones and others around him just as he should have.
Absolutely. I am 110,000% on this guy's side through and through. When mama calls, you better show up. He did his part. Like I said earlier, if he lived another 20 minutes down the road, this could have been completely different. Fortunately, he's involved with her life, so it was a quick little response, like I was saying earlier. But I'm glad it went the way it went. Unfortunately, it had to happen. But at the same time, too, I'm kind of glad that this came up because in my personal life, I'm kind of having some health issues in my family, and I get worried when they're being contacted by people. They're in a situation where they can be taken advantage of quite easily, and it does bother me, and this is to the extreme of that.
Yeah, this is something that probably would be most children's worst nightmare once their parents get older.
Yeah,
and I mean, even in my family, while my grandparents were still alive, we did our best to try to keep them as close as possible. Not necessarily, like the reasoning for at least my mother and was not necessarily for their protection, but also because of the fact that if something medically emergency happens, if you're an hour away, you're virtually useless. I mean, you can call 911 if they call you first for whatever reason that it is, or you get a call, you're still within a drive times away to go see them. But if you're an hour or even 30 minutes, you're kind of virtually useless when it comes to stuff like that. And I don't want to talk down to people who unfortunately have to live far away from their parents, or they have their reasons why they're living far away. If that's your lifestyle, that's the way that it works for you, then good for you. But when it comes to them being older and needing a lot more care, that's something to keep in mind. And unfortunately, in this kind of story, it shows you that even their safety is something you got to think about, whether it's a plan in place for them while they're at home alone, or it's just trying to be closer so if something happens, you're the first person that they call, because when seconds matter, help is always minutes away. Absolutely. But if you're right down the block, you might be less than a minute away.
Yep.
You will get there faster than the police will, and you can do something before they can even step foot on that property.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect example right here manifested into this story. The man had already started his way inside to getting, breaking into this woman's house. I just want to reiterate one more time, no matter what laws happen, no matter what there is, when your mama calls, you better show up.
Absolutely.
Don't worry about nothing else until mama's good.
Exactly. She's the one who put you in this world. You better not let her get taken out.
If you got to go spend the rest of your life in prison, you do that. Absolutely.
I agree. But we want to thank you guys for watching another episode of Self-Defense Saturdays. We love doing these stories for you guys, especially ones like these that are a little bit different than you would normally hear. The website that we use to get these stories is going to be in the description below. It is Firearm Owners Against Crime. There is so many stories on this website that we can't get to them all. We would really think to be beneficial for you guys to go ahead and read those stories if you enjoy what we're doing here and you would like to see more of stories like this, just to see that the Second Amendment and right to self-defense is still alive and well, and that people are getting treated right in the justice system without being charged for defending their lives.
Absolutely.
There will also be a link tree down in the description to see all of our social media platforms. We have stories on Facebook, Reels on Instagram, and we also have a new social media platform that we've been posting on called Rumble. It's a small one, but I know Wesley and Jose are very big on it, and we think it'll do very well, and we want you guys to go ahead and check that out.
Absolutely, guys. Also, Fridays, also, Jose and Wes, we've always got an episode of Ready, Aim, Live coming out every Friday. Me and Chris are doing Defense Saturdays. Those come out around 10 o'clock every Saturday morning. And always remember, guys,
Who's got your six?